What the fuck is up, everyone? Little impromptu fucking recording tonight. I want to be just kind of winging it, as if that's not what I do, anyways. Um, so, I just watched the latest episode of New Amsterdam, which, if you haven't seen it, there are so many fucking reasons to watch that. That being said, I'm gonna be focusing on one thing, and if you're worried about spoilers for whatever reason, fucking don't watch this, I guess. Um, and we're gonna get into it. So, watch the latest episode, and this kind of relates to me in a very personal level of what I'd been kind of addressing throughout the past few videos that I made and things like that. I had a pretty weird childhood. Um, at the time, I thought everything was fine, but now, like, looking back at it, talking to other friends, and them being like, this isn't how it's supposed to go, kind of makes you start to look into things. So, I had these two fantastic people in my life. Their names were Jen and Kevin, and they were homeless. And I met them downtown Tempe. They lived on Mill Avenue, which is what I've been writing about. And it was awesome. They taught me a lot of things about being a person, really. It was just them teaching me not only about living on them, like on their own, on the streets, trying to just work shit out, but also dealing with just day-to-day life. And that meant a lot to me. So why did I stop talking to them? A few things played in part on that. One of them was they were kind of hard to contact. The other one was they finally got a job, and they were doing better. So why am I talking about this? And why is New Amsterdam the introduction to this? So the latest episode, Dr. Frome, or Iggy, whatever you want to call him, he spent a lot of time with this girl, Gemma. And Gemma was going through quite a fucking rough life. And I will never say that I had it as bad as her or anything like that. But he was that way for her to finally get out of where she was at. Jen and Kevin kind of did the same for me. They weren't therapists. They definitely fucking weren't therapists. But they were definitely something that helped me get out of my mental state and to start growing as a person. And I credit them to everything that I've accomplished to this day. And I know that may not be a lot for some people, but again, I'm in a fucking house. I'm working shit out. I just got a promotion, which, by the way, just got a promotion. Fuck yeah. It's been a good time. Kind of. So, in the latest episode, Gemma brings up something that was kind of reverse of what I experienced. Dr. Frome went and visited her at her new foster home. Things are going well, but for some reason she's just not talking to him. She kind of avoids him, and he doesn't understand what's going on. Iggy's fucking confused, which, by the way, he's an amazing actor. You should fucking watch all of his shit, and you should watch the show. It's amazing. So he goes and talks to her near the end of the episode, and she confesses something to him that I think we've all kind of experienced in different degrees in our life, which is there's going to be people in your life that they don't really match what you're going through all the time. They're very good for a certain period in your life, but after a while, shit happens. Things change. Things change. Sorry, I've been drinking quite a bit, but I had to get this out as soon as possible. So she informs him that she didn't really know what to do anymore with him because she had already confessed so much of her life and he knew so much about her that it was kind of weird to talk to him anymore because she was finally doing better, which is, again, I get it for people that haven't been through that exact experience, but when you meet certain people at a certain point in your life, everything seems like that's exactly what needs to happen. The second that you move onto a new chapter in your life, though, certain people just don't really fit in. So I had Jen and Kevin. They were the greatest thing to happen to me at the time. And if they wanted to get back in contact, I would be more than happy to just hang out, shoot the shit, you know, whatever. But they moved on. They found a job. They started becoming the people that they wanted to be. And I love the fact that they found the means to an end, because no one deserves to be on the fucking street. So they put in the work and they got off. That's fantastic. And if somehow this reaches you guys, fucking good on you. Thank you so much for everything that you did, but also I'm so glad that you're out of it. So I ran into them probably, I don't know, like maybe a year or 2 years after they had found a job. We had lost all connection. We weren't talking anymore or anything like that. It happens, especially when people are living on the streets. So ran into them, and we just catched up, you know, asked how each other was doing, and they're doing really well. I had a phone, they had a phone, we could have exchanged numbers, but in all honesty, I was fortunate enough to go, well, you don't need me in your life anymore. If anything, I'm just a reminder of what was instead of what is. And that's kind of that's where I'm linking all of this together. It's the same experience of Gemma was someone, and she experienced things, and she needed Iggy or Dr. Fromm to be there for her. Then circumstances changed, as they're supposed to. At least hopefully. She didn't need that therapist anymore, and yes, they were more than just therapist and patient. They had grown a bond and a friendship, but he was that reminder, and I was that reminder for Jen and Kevin. So when we caught up and we had a chat and everything went well, neither one of us were like, oh, we should totally fucking hang out more or anything like that. We were both pretty honest about how things were going. We knew that end of day, we probably wouldn't see each other again unless we ran into each other again. And maybe then things would be different. Hasn't happened yet. So that's where things are now. It's not a bad thing. It's just shit happens. So why did I feel the need to ramble about this? I'm working on a book, as I've aforementioned, and I guess I should kind of go into more about my personal life, because the main character is kind of based on me. Not very much so, but there's a lot of me in it, and that's what I was saying when I first talked about it. Of I'm writing from what I know, and from what I know right now is the experience that I've had in my childhood. And Jen and Kevin played a pretty decent part. We hung out for about 3 years before they got their job and they moved out of being homeless. Moved out, yeah. What a fuck. They found their way, and I was just a part of where they were at. They may still connect with other people from their past and stuff like that, but for me, I was just some kid that went to Mill Avenue and hung out with them on a like weekly basis. So my growing up, I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing, and some of that plays into how I was raised. Some of it plays into just who I am as a person. It's whatever. They still played a pretty big part in me growing up. It was the later half of my childhood. Even then, they played a very major role in who I am now. So, growing up, my parents weren't terrible. I just wasn't the kid they were hoping for, I guess. I was more interested in playing video games or reading books, and I was kind of a shut-in my entire life. I wasn't interested in sports. I didn't want to do anything really outside. I just wanted to experience these different worlds. It's arguable that some of that is the fact that I'm manic, and even then my first anxiety attack was when I was in like fucking preschool. I still remember it very clearly. I was sitting in my parents' bed, I was watching Little Bear, and I could hear my two sisters playing in the backyard. And for some reason, hearing them outside and me just sitting there, and I couldn't even tell you. I was just stricken with this grief and this feeling of loss, and like that there was something going on that I just couldn't explain. And I broke down crying. It was weird because I didn't know what was going on. My family didn't really pay too much attention to like mental disorders or anything like that. They heard their son crying after preschool, and they went in and were like, "What the fuck's going on?" So I'm crying. They're trying to figure out what's wrong. I can't tell them what's wrong. Eventually, they just calm me down. They tell me that I need to take a nap. Everything's fine, right? That's how it's supposed to go. Everything was fine for the night. But there was something else going on. And I didn't know what was going on. It wasn't until I started going to therapy and I explained the same story that I was told, like, that sounds like an anxiety attack. Fuck. That's not something that you're supposed to have when you're in preschool, but it happens to a lot of people. Maybe not like percentage-wise in society, a lot of people, but it still happens. So it's not extremely uncommon. It's just something that doesn't happen too often. That's fucking a terrible way of saying it. What what am I doing? Either way. So I had my anxiety attack, and I had all these other things that just my family didn't exactly get. So instead of being raised by them, they didn't know everything that they were doing. So they were just like, alright, well, you like reading, you like video games, you like fantasy, we're gonna give you that. They did what they could. Although for me, it still felt like they were just kind of pushing me off to the side. Were they really? No. At least I don't think so. But at the time, it felt that way, and that definitely structured my coming of age. So, how did I handle it? I did exactly what they expected. I immersed myself in all these different worlds, all these different experiences. I just lost myself in fiction. So I read books, I played video games, I watched movies, I watched TV shows, I did anything that I could to basically distract myself from what was actually going on. And for me, what was going on was being ignored and not really fitting in with anything around me. Again, shit happens. They did what they could with what was available to them, and what was available to them was a kid having anxiety attacks in preschool. So, as I grew up, that's kind of what I stuck to. And it's still what I stick to. I read, or I watch a movie, or I play a video game, or something, and if I'm not doing that, I'm generally spending time just sitting by myself and creating something, or I'm with the few friends that I can truly trust in my life. This is kind of going dark. This isn't supposed to be dark. This is supposed to be a more, like, not happy, but it's just an explanation of where I'm at in the world. Which I guess isn't exactly happy. Fuck it. So, I meet Jen and Kevin when I am in middle school. And I started going to downtown Tempe on Mill Avenue just as like a thing to do. I would do it on weekends. I'd hop on the bus, go downtown, and just walk around. Well, when that happens, you meet some eccentric characters. Luckily, two of them were Jen and Kevin. I still remember I was at Borders, which was a bookstore. They're no longer around. Rest in peace. But I was at Borders, and I walked in, and I was looking at the manga. At that point, I wasn't really into anime or manga or anything like that, but they interested me, so I was looking at them. I picked up something, couldn't tell you what, and Jen and Kevin were there. And they were like, "Hey man, if that interests you, you should totally watch Akira," which was one of the greatest animes ever created. I would still put it in probably my top 5, if not at number 1. In fact, I have a tattoo of it. Like, it changed everything for me, and it was all thanks to them. So I went home that night, and I downloaded it, called up my friend. I was like, "Hey, you should totally come down. I want to watch an anime. We're going to sit down, just watch through it. It's going to be great." It was fucking phenomenal. And ever since then, I started going down there and just trying to run into them. Which wasn't very hard to do, considering they lived on the streets. Right there. Then our relationship started to grow. It wasn't just, "Hey, if you like this, you should watch this." It started to just be hanging out, talking about life, talking about what they did to get there, as well as what I can do to not get there, and what have you. Honestly, for them, it was kind of a stroke of luck, or bad luck, whatever. They just kind of got stuck. But through them, I started to become friends with quite a lot of the other homeless people down there. And they were all wonderful people. For the most part. I don't want to bash on anyone or anything like that. Sometimes things happen and you're homeless. And just because I don't get along with you as a person doesn't mean that you're not a good person. It just means that we didn't mesh. That happens too. So I meet them. Suddenly I'm going down there almost daily and just hanging out with everyone. I was there for their drum circles. I was there for their hookah nights and stuff. Like, people would show up and literally just set up hookahs on the street. This was the epitome of Mill Avenue, downtown Tempe. It's not the same anymore. It's slowly growing to that, but it's definitely not the same. So what I'm writing about now has them as characters, and I wouldn't want it any other way. They didn't continue raising me, essentially. They were at the time, I kind of considered them my downtown parents. They were the ones that were actually raising me into adulthood when my family didn't exactly understand what I was becoming. So for me, they were parental figures. And I'm so happy for where they ended up. And I know for a fact that they have to be doing well. And that's more wishful thinking than knowledge, but I want nothing more than for them to be doing fantastic. So that's just the image that I've painted in my head for them. They, as far as I'm concerned, they've worked shit out, and now things are going good. So what they did for me, I've kind of carried on into what I'm writing. I'm writing about this kid who's lost and his family doesn't understand him, and although overall things should be good, it's just not. And that's me kind of encompassing my manic into my life, because my family really did do what they could, but it wasn't what I needed. And eventually my mom found out that she was bipolar when I was in high school. She went on medication, she started doing better, and the family as a whole kind of started meshing together better, because she was no longer going through a lot of the issues that she had. She was also doing therapy and things like that. So she was taking the steps that she felt she needed to take to become a better person. And as far as I'm concerned, it did work. That didn't change the fact that she still had a lot of things that she was dealing with. She was already fucking in her mid-40s. And suddenly, like, she's finding out that she's bipolar. That's not a fun fucking way to live life. Because then you have to question the rest of your life. And like, did I make these choices for this or this? Like, was it my choice? Was it because I was just going through this mood swing? Fucking whatever. And then my sister started going to therapy. And she was also diagnosed as bipolar. This is before I ever went to therapy or anything like that. But when my sister got diagnosed, my mom went through quite a major meltdown. If you're not aware, bipolar disorder is sometimes considered genetic, especially from the maternal side. This might have changed. I haven't done research in a while, but at the time, that's what was basically the fact or the science. So she blamed herself, and my mom went through a major meltdown. And that was a fucking rough time for everyone in the family. My sister felt terrible for being her, and my mom felt terrible for giving that issue to her. So then you fast forward about 3 or 4 years, and I get diagnosed as manic. To this day, my mom does not know that I'm manic, because I didn't want to put her through that again. One sec. That's a rough thing to carry. Especially when it was at a point in my life that I felt like my family was doing better. And they are still doing better. So, what stopped me? And what has still continued to stop me? I just didn't want to bring more pain and suffering onto my family, because through therapy I also realized that they were doing everything that they could. They just didn't know what was going on. So instead I had two fantastic people that were homeless downtown, and they helped me through everything. And that's a wonderful experience that I've had, and it obviously encouraged me to continue writing and continue creating and things like that. So yeah, this is dragging on. I'm so sorry, but I wanted to get this out. I feel like it'll help explain a little bit more about why I'm writing what I am. I wanted to express someone that was going through a lot and reached out to people that normally wouldn't have been reached out to. And hopefully it turns out to a decent story. I don't know how to end this. Fuck. I like, honestly, from my last video, I am doing a lot better. It doesn't change the fact that there was shit that happened in my past, and I'm still kind of going through it myself. But after watching that episode, I was like, this is a great little, like, intro to what I've been experiencing. And hopefully it explains a little bit more of who I am as well. So, thanks for listening if you make it all the way through. Like this if you want. I'm not gonna blame you if you don't. Subscribe if you can. I don't fucking know. I'm really bad at this whole YouTube thing. Even though I've been doing it for, God, over a month now. Next video will be a lot different. I'm going to be creating a fairy fountain or an absinthe fountain. Really psyched for that. I'm going to be getting most of the supplies tomorrow, so we'll fucking crack into that. It'll be a much shorter video, maybe. Hopefully, who fucking knows. But that's what's going on. I hope that this brings in some knowledge, or maybe reminds you of people from your past that weren't normal, but definitely helped shape who you are today. So, thanks for listening. Hopefully I'll upload this. Who fucking knows anymore? There's gonna be a lot of editing, most likely. I might edit it first and then send it to my editor, or not. That's generally how it's been going. I don't send it to my editor and I just do my own cuts. But she's always there for me, so we'll work it out. Peace. Have a good one. Fuck yeah.